We're here today to talk about a very serious subject, but hopefully in a manner that it isn't at all serious, sometimes can be humorous. Justine's right, this is one of the subjects that is a taboo subject and people very rarely want to talk about death. And I think the reason they don't want to talk about it is because we have some sort of fear, we all have a fear of death, but we also think that when we talk about death, it'll bring death closer. Somehow, if we even mention the word, that we'll drop dead as we leave this building, and we won't. Because talking about it absolutely will not bring death closer, because if talking about things brought things closer, then I will talk about the lottery all day, every day.
As we all know, good end-of-life care is about the quality of death and not about quantity of life. And this is one of the messages we're trying to get across. And part of the way of doing it is to start having these conversations. It's about proactive care, not reactive care. It's not about doing everything as possible, but it's about doing what's appropriate and correct for that individual patient. It gives patients a chance to put their house in order, and it makes people realise that death is another part of a patient's journey. I think death is now one of the last taboo topics, and this in some way I think needs to be addressed.
But I remember one of the saddest moments of my life was when my father did die and in the ICU, and I was sitting outside in the corridor with my mother, who was in tears, and said, "I wish it was me." And you're going, "Yes, I'm getting emotional there." And she genuinely said she wanted to die before my father, because she didn't think she'd be able to cope, but she did cope. And the reason she coped is because my father had prepared quite well. Even as soon as he knew he was diagnosed with cancer, I think he knew an awful lot more than he was letting on, and he knew that things were going to get very bad. So he prepared himself, and he prepared the family, and he prepared his will, and he prepared everything. So when he did eventually go, and as dignified as he could, things were ready.
I think the most important thing is that people are not afraid to ask the questions they want to ask. By talking about this, it is not going to bring death or end of life any closer. In fact, we know that if anything, it improves the quality of care and the quality of each day that you have to spend for the rest of your life. Don't feel that you're taking up time of the health professionals that are providing care to you by asking them the relevant questions or having the conversation with them, because that's what they're trained to do. You're not taking up their time. It's really, really relevant and very, very important that you would have those conversations. By having them, then it allows the health professionals and your family around you to be able to put the best possible care in place and allow you to say the things that you want to say, and take control of how you feel, how you are, of your symptoms, all of those things. I think without having the conversation or asking the questions, then it can be a fairly lonely place for people, and it can be quite scary. And in our experience, we find that when you are able to have the conversations, people relax a lot more, and it's a lot less stressful, and it relieves quite a bit of anxiety, not just for the person, but for their family and friends around them.
My mother, I have to tell you, was the most Catholic woman in Ireland, by the way. And this is absolutely true. She died on the 10th of July 2008. We had to bury my mother on the 12th of July. I swear to God, it's absolutely true. Burying my mother on the 12th is a bit like burying Hitler during Passover. It was, but again, because she had that nice attitude to death, she said she was ready for it, she was prepared. We had conversations with her, and we've had not very heavy conversations, but we knew exactly what she wanted. We knew what type of mass she wanted, we knew the music that she wanted, we knew the prayers that she wanted, and again, we had time to prepare. And she died very peacefully, and I have to say, Clifton Nursing Home were superb. And again, in treating us with a huge, very dignified manner. Again, the family were allowed to gather. It was all very emotional and very moving. But she died in the way she wanted to die, and in a way that was very calm, very peaceful, and very dignified. And she got the funeral that she wanted on the 12th of July. Though I do remember my sister asking me, what sort of music she wanted. I said, what do you think? She said, she always loved the flute. I said, Where would I find someone to play a flute on the 12th of July?
You know, I think if there's a big crisis towards the end and things go wrong and somebody's admitted to hospital and family haven't been able to get there and there's terrible upset involved in all of that, then as you say, it does certainly make bereavement more difficult. Whereas in scenarios that we've had where the person's in control of where they are, where they're being cared for, how things are being managed, and their family and their friends and their neighbours have all had time and are all helping to support that, then at least afterwards they know that all those wishes have been met. And whilst it doesn't take away the loss that they might be feeling, at least they know that the person who's passed away has had everything in place that they wanted. And in my experience, that seems to help a lot.
There's a great story in the paper this week about a fella called Karl Albrecht in Hamburg, who put an ad in the paper. He was 88 years old and said he was having a party because he'd moved house. And he said his new address was plot 16X 42 in the Albrecht cemetery in Hamburg. And he put in the papers he was having a party, nobody was allowed to wear black, they all had to wear coloured clothes, and there would be free schnapps available. And he had 200 people who turned up to his funeral, and his widow again said that's the way he was, that's what he would have wanted, and that's what we have to remember. If you've got time to prepare for death, prepare for it, because it makes life a lot easier for the people following on, and it makes life a lot better.
Very often it's the practical day-to-day pragmatic arrangements that they need. You know, who's going to be there, who will they contact out of hours, what do they do if a crisis arises. So by having these conversations and being able to talk a person and their family through all of this, then you know the planning helps make sure that their wishes are adhered to as best as we can. And then we have a responsibility to make sure that whatever conversations we have are relayed to all the other health professionals, their GP, the hospital, the consultant, all the various teams, that they all know what the person and their family want.
But lawyers, I don't particularly like lawyers, nobody can like lawyers, but lawyers are very important, ladies and gentlemen. Very important for one thing. If you take one lesson today, go and see a lawyer. Go and make a will. A will is a very, very, very important document. A will tells people what you want to do with your stuff after you die. My experience briefly as a lawyer is that the first case I had was a fellow who died, who didn't leave a will, and his family, two brothers, hated each other. And two brothers literally went to court and fought over a broken ladder and a stereo because they hated each other so much. And they went to court and paid lawyers lots of money because their father hadn't made a will and said who wanted what. And a will is a very simple document. A lot of lawyers like to make it complicated, but it basically tells people what you want to do with your stuff after you go. And it saves an awful lot of bother. It makes everything absolutely clear. So my mother, when my father passed away, got everything. My big brother got the car. He got the car, but apart from that, but because my father put it down in black and white, we all knew exactly what he wanted. So if we were giving advice to anybody, and we were all feel if we make a will that we're going to die soon, it's not going to happen. It's not. It doesn't bring death closer. It just makes everything absolutely clear for those following on, and that is absolutely essential. And I'd say that's the one message I would give as an ex-lawyer: please, 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 make a will.
Whenever we are trying to provide support, it's not just for the person with the illness, but it's for the carers as well. And carers need respite, they need a break, they need to be able to discuss how they're feeling with somebody as well. And there are plenty of services available to help support the person and their carers if they know where to turn to. So they can come and speak to us, and we will hopefully help direct them towards some sort of support and respite so that they can go on caring and be able to do the best that they can for the person that they love.
So to finish off, in the words of a famous Scottish songwriter, Paolo Nutini. I thought he was Italian as well, I don't know. Pretty Scottish. It was in love I was created, and it's in love, it's how I hope I die. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.